More robust and multifaceted over Final Fantasy VII Remake in every possible way, we are diving head-on into developer commentary over just how much more expansive this second part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake saga is, while also going over demo updates and insight into further remakes of numbered Final Fantasy titles. If you are in any way interested in trying out Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and you have a PS5, definitely consider participating in my ongoing giveaway of the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Digital Deluxe Edition, linked in the description. This edition will entitle the winner to the most complete digital edition available, including the base game, a mini soundtrack, a digital art book, the magic pot summoning materia, along with an accessory and armor. Alright, the demo is out on PS5 as we speak, and while we only have access to the exceptionally done Nibelheim flashback sequence featuring Cloud and Sephiroth, we do have confirmation that the Junun open world demo will be launching on February 21st. Just make sure you've completed the Nibelheim sequence to gain access to the Junun demo, and while this upcoming slice of open world gameplay will be featured shortly, it is worth mentioning that this sequence will be much smaller than the actual area we are to explore in the Junun region when the full game releases on February 29th. The Junun demo we are likely to experience may be a modified version of the demo that the press was able to experience back in September. Those who complete the Junun demo will unlock the Kupo Charm and Survival set for use in the full version. Moving on to the developer commentary, we have some meaningful insight into just how jam-packed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is over the strictly Midgar-focused Final Fantasy VII Remake, giving us further information pertaining to the newly introduced affinity mechanics, open-world optimization, and of course, balancing player freedom while also showcasing a focused story. The following interview by GameRant focuses on such topics as game director Naoki Hamaguchi and producer Yoshinori Kitase discuss the game at length, and I highly encourage you all to check out the interview for yourselves, which is, of course, linked in the description. One key element that is certainly new to Rebirth over Remake is the social affinity mechanic, which was actually in the original Final Fantasy VII, albeit kind of an invisible system in which certain dialogue choices could impact certain optional scenes at a later date. Well, here in Rebirth, this mechanic has been expanded on, as director Naoki Hamaguchi explains. One way it influences this is the various times at which you're interacting with another party member and you can select between options. According to that, the affinity may change, but there are also circumstances where you will go on a quest. Hamaguchi further explains that these quests involve Cloud alongside a secondary character, and that by completing these quests, the affinity with said character will rise. The same goes for the different minigames within Rebirth, and the results of that minigame can also affect affinity, Hamaguchi states. There are various ways in which affinity can change throughout the game. Hamaguchi explains that, just like in the original Final Fantasy VII, the affinity system largely influences the Gold Saucer date event, which will be happening here in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So it sounds like these largely optional character affinity quests and side objectives, while mainly affecting the Gold Saucer date, adds an additional layer of exploring different sides of Cloud's relationships with them, further promoting Rebirth's greater focus on optional, yet meaningful content as it breaks free from the shackles of being confined to Midgar. I'm curious to see how this affinity mechanic plays out in the final release, and just how robust it actually is, but let me know what you all think about it in the comments. I'm hoping this mechanic is included throughout the FF7 Remake saga going forward, as the more opportunities to explore Cloud's relationships with this excellent cast of Final Fantasy VII is a huge win in my book. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth had the difficult task of translating what was a traditional navigable world map in the original game to a more modern open world setting in this remake. As a result, the game in Rebirth is incredibly vast and rich, with fully realized locations containing a plethora of minigames, side and main objectives, and expanded lore. The recent State of Play trailer goes into all that in great detail, but one thing unique about these areas of Final Fantasy VII's world, from the grasslands to Cosmo Canyon, Junon, Corel, and beyond, is that these individual grand landmasses seamlessly blend into one another through traversal, a component that Hamaguchi states could never have been done on the PS4. In discussing the hardware of the PS5 and the SSD, Hamaguchi explains that being able to experience all these regions seamlessly was paramount to the team's vision of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This allowed us to really cater to the very expansive world and the detailed region, Hamaguchi explains, referring to the capabilities of the PS5 hardware, as well as the content and experiences one can have in each region. Providing a seamless transition between each area and scene could not have been done with the PS4. I can't wait to experience just how grand all these regions are and to be able to transition seamlessly between them, whether on foot, by chocobo, or by the numerous vehicles that we are able to use. In line with how much grander in scope Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is when compared to Remake, Naoki Hamaguchi explains that it was a deliberate decision the team made while conceptualizing Rebirth to include enticing side content and stories that are not part of the main quest, but rather complement the main narrative of the story as a continuation of where Remake left off. In regards to such side activities, Hamaguchi states, some of them may have an original storyline, some may have unique minigames that are exclusive to a specific side quest, or they may be a distinct way to solve a puzzle or mystery for this particular quest. Hamaguchi continues with, those who want to play the main story can focus on that and do so, while others who want to immerse themselves in the side content and explore every nook and cranny can do so as well. The major appeal of Rebirth, I believe, is allowing the different ways of play according to the player's preference. It certainly sounds like those who just want to beeline it to the end of the game by simply doing the main objectives can absolutely do that here, but also opening things up to explore the grand world of Final Fantasy VII and truly explore it, just like the original, is what I am most excited about here. But what about you? Which components of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth are you most looking forward to? Let me know in the comments. Again, go look at the full interview, linked in the description, for some more story and side content insight, but just make sure that you have at least 145 gigabytes of storage, as this 2-disc PS5 game is absolutely massive and completely dwarfs Final Fantasy VII Remake that came before it in terms of sheer scope and content. While we will have to wait for the third chapter in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, it was confirmed in June of 2022 when we got our first official reveal of Rebirth that the team had already started developing the third game in the Remake trilogy. With this third game likely utilizing much of the infrastructure of Rebirth's open world design, let's hope we don't have to wait another 4 years to experience it. But just don't expect another mainline Final Fantasy remake coming out anytime soon, as Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy director Hamaguchi emphatically addresses his interest in another remake with an unequivocal no. In a recent interview with IGN, Hamaguchi and Yoshinori Kitase discussed what a potential remake for Final Fantasy VIII would be like, and Kitase, who served as the game director for Final Fantasy VIII, agrees with Hamaguchi's enthusiastic hesitation and current disinterest in remaking classic Final Fantasy games. Trying to recreate that kind of volume of content you had in the RPGs back then in the modern day really is not something you can take up lightly, Kitase states. It's such a massive investment of time and effort that we really have to think very hard about taking on any kind of project like that. While we may not see an FF8 remake at all, or at least not anytime soon, Kitase did mention numerous aspects that he would like to see happen to the game if it were to get remade, chief among them being a reworking of the game's junction system and various battle mechanics. You can read all about it in IGN's interview, also linked in the description, but it's quite clear that remaking yet another SNES or PS1 era Final Fantasy game isn't entirely what Square Enix are interested in doing quite yet. That doesn't mean that remakes of these games may not happen, as the rumored Final Fantasy IX remake is said to be nowhere near as robust nor extensive as the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, but it's just fun to hear about this stuff straight from the developers. Are there Final Fantasy games you'd like to see get remade? Let me know below. Speaking of remakes, there is a ton of new remake and remaster information that has been taking over the internet regarding the Persona series, so definitely check out this video if you'd like to stay up to date with everything going on with Persona, and I will see you all real soon in the next one.